Hello YouTube. Today we are going to install some custom parts into this Manix 2. This is the Spy 27 G10 model, and what we're going to install here is a Flytanium titanium ball cage, which is in anodized purple. Now these are a really nice addition to the Manix, and along with that I'm also going to take this opportunity to upgrade the ball bearing inside the knife to zirconium ones, and also add this new bead with the lanyard. We are going to be using a T10 and a T8, the T10 being for the pivot screws and the T8 we'll be using for the body screws. Since we are just taking the knife apart to replace the ball cage and the ball bearing, we do not need to disassemble the entire knife. So we do not need to remove the scales or the clips. We can just work around them. So we also have some KPL lube here that we will use to lube the pivot and the washers during the assembly process. We start by removing the body screws on the clip side. I like to remove the clip side body screws first because the pivot is captured on the presentation slide and the presentation side with a D-shaped so that it doesn't rotate when you are screwing or unscrewing the screws on the pivot. So I like to keep that side on and just remove the clip side for this purpose. So I just pry the liner and the scales out of the way and rotate them over so that we can now look at the inside of the knife. Now we'll go ahead and open the blade. Now from here on we have to be very careful because now the blade is open, and if you want you can put some tape over the blade to protect yourself, but I just like to be careful. I'm going to remove the one screw on the back side of the presentation sides and rotate that will enable me to rotate the lock bar out of the way so I can remove the spring on the ball cage and the ball cage itself. It's much easier to remove the ball cage once you have the blade out. So it's better to remove the blade first. Here you see I'm struggling a little bit removing the ball cage because the blade is still on, and that is holding the ball cage in its tracks. And now I'm removing the blade, and with the blade removed it's very easy to remove the ball cage now. Now I also grab the spacer from the washer from the clip side liner, and we're going to use that during the assembly process. Now let's grab the new Flytanium ball cage, and we are going to install that with the new zirconium ball bearing into the knife. Now this knife originally had the steel ball bearing. I had earlier upgraded it to the ceramic ball bearing, and now I'm going to try out this new zirconium ball bearing and see how that does. These zirconium ball bearings are a little bit heavier than the ceramic ones, but still a lot lighter than the steel ones, and they are very, very smooth. So I'm hoping that this will smoothen the action considerably. We'll see once we assemble the knife. Now with the ball bearing inside the ball cage, we have to make sure that the ball cage is facing upwards. The open side of the ball cage through which you drop the ball in has to face upwards, and the closed side would be facing towards the pivot. Yeah, as you can see, the ball is super slick, so we are having a hard time trying to put it back into the ball cage and then having it sit inside the tracks. Before we install the ball cage, let's go ahead and clean the pivot area. Let's go ahead and clean the pivot area so that we can apply fresh lube to the pivot and washers during the assembly process. So I'm just using an alcohol swab to clean out the old oil and any gunk. And I'm going to also clean the blade and the tang of the blade in which the pivot sits, so that I remove all traces of the old oil. Now with the blade clean, let's start the assembly process. I've already applied a little bit of lube on the washers off camera, and now I'm going to try to assemble that ball cage with the ball bearing again into the blade. Now holding the ball in carefully, I place the cage inside the tracks. Now you have to be very careful here because these ball cages have a very thin guide rod on which the spring mounts, and you don't want to apply too much pressure that will cause it to snap. So I'm inserting the ball bearing cage inside the track as well as putting the blade on at the same time. The trick is to push the ball bearing cage all the way to the back and then put the knife blade on, then push the ball bearing cage forward, thereby capturing it between the tracks and the blade itself. And now you're ready to put the spring on the ball cage and then rotate the backspacer into place. Be very careful. Do not apply too much pressure unless you're sure that the spring and the ball cage is seated properly. Otherwise, you're going to snap the ball cage. I'm just pushing the spring in place. Now for this ball cage to seat in properly, you have to now screw on the other side of the backspacer, the screw that we took off from the presentation side. Now if you are having trouble lining up the screw with its threaded part, you have to rock the ball cage back and forth a little bit, allow it to settle, and have the backspacer aligned with the hole for the screw. So once you do that, you should be able to put the screw back on. Keep everything loose. Don't tighten anything down, because there's going to be a lot of adjustment required before the final assembly. Now with the backspacer in place, the action is pretty much complete. So very carefully try to push the ball cage back and rotate the knife into the closed position. Make sure that the tang of the blade is hitting the backspacer and not the blade itself. Check the action. It's going to be stiff right now because everything is still not in its proper position. You will feel a little bit of resistance also because this is a brand new ball cage, and so over time they're going to be smoothening out of this ball cage as you use the knife. But initially you will feel a little bit of resistance where there are all the rough edges on the machining is going to have to wear out before it starts to get smooth again. So I put the washer back on, and now I'm rotating the scale back into place, and I'm putting the knife back together, starting with the pivot screw. Again, keep everything loose because there's going to be several adjustments required. I'm putting the body screws on now, which are T8. Once you have all the screws in place, it's a good idea to keep everything loose and then have the knife open and close a few times, especially check the action, that the action looks good. Check the centering a little bit, see what you need to adjust. Once you feel like the ball cage and the backspacer have settled into its position, then you can start to tighten the screws down. The key here is to make sure that the very uniform pressure is being applied to the blade and the pivot from both directions of the knife. So adjust as necessary. Now here, as you can see, the centering of the blade is a little bit off. So what I'm trying to do here is push some of these alcohol swab packets in between the blade and the liner, and retightening the screws so that I can improve the centering of the blade within the knife itself. So just loosen everything up and then tighten everything down, starting with the side that needs to that the blade needs to go further towards. Then once you have that side snewed tight, you can go ahead and tighten the opposite side just enough so that the knife is snug. Now you should have at least a little bit better centering than before. Now I am going to, this is the tuning part where I'm going to check the action on the knife several times and make several adjustments, going back and forth on all the screws, so that the action is smooth enough, but there is also no blade play. So the screws have to be just tight enough so that there is no movement in the blade, but it should also allow the free movement of the blade throughout the action. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's the most of the assembly process. Rest of it is just trying the knife out and tuning it until you're happy with the action and happy with how hard the detent is, and going back and forth. But this is pretty much it. It's a pretty simple thing to do once you figure out what are the where the pivot is captured, which side the pivot is captured, how do you remove the ball cage, how do you reposition the ball cage. Once you figure that out, the Manix 2 is a very simple knife to work on. I've worked on several Manix 2s now. I've converted one from lightweight to G10, and it's pretty simple enough if you know a couple of tricks, and I've tried to show you that in this video, and hopefully it helps you. Now don't take this video as a tutorial on how to disassemble and assemble the knives. This is obviously your responsibility, because disassembling any knife will actually void the warranty. So it's up to you to make that call. This is not an instructional video. This is just to show you how I have done it and to share some of my learnings from doing this on several occasions. So that's it. Thank you, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you enjoyed it, please hit like and please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to put videos more regularly now, so please help me and help my channel grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys again in the next video. Thank you.